Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of Initiate Interview with Indonesian Young Professional in Energy Sector. After in the last episode, we're discussing about how electricity and energy in general will play a role in cities environment. Now we're going to have a discussion about how electricity will play a role in rural areas in Indonesia. Uh, Joining us today is Dintani Naimah. She graduated from Gajah Mada University and also KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. And after that, she chose to work to help in providing electricity access for rural areas in Indonesia, particularly in Ambon, where she joins NZMATES, an NGO with funding from New Zealand government. She working for the evaluation, monitoring, and learning about those people, how to use the electricity and how to ensure the sustainability of the energy system. Good morning, Dinta. Thank you for joining us. Talk to us a little bit about, you're working at NZMATES, working in Ambon, in Eastern Indonesia. Talk to us a little bit about your work and also what are they and what are they doing and how come you working for them?
Okay, so I work for NZMATES program. NZMATES is a program funded by New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. In Indonesia, it is implemented by collaboration between Infratech, a renewable energy company based in New Zealand, and Yayasan Mercy Corp. Our goal is to support the uptake of affordable, reliable, and green energy in Maluku by giving technical assistance and capacity building to our partners. I work in NZMATES as a monitoring, evaluation, learning, and reporting specialist, where I am responsible to ensure our activities are in line with what we aim for, to evaluate our process towards our goal, and to take all of the learning into our next process. I have to ensure also that our program has cross-cutting issues taking into account, such as gender issues and human rights issues. I have to make sure our project also has accountability mechanism in place. So most of the time, I work by seeing the program as in a bigger perspective before zooming into technical and social aspects. And before working for NZMATES, I worked for Universitas Gajah Mada as a researcher in Center for Energy Studies. During my work in Universitas Gajah Mada, I also worked in multidisciplinary perspective, especially on sustainability of renewable energy system.
But I'm a little bit curious because you get your bachelor degree from Gajah Mada University and then you go for master in KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. It's not uncommon, but of course it's trigger a question. You come from Sweden, you graduate from Sweden, and then how come you go to rural areas like Ambon? What motivates you?
So it's a personal journey for me, personal and professional journey for me. So when I study in KTH, we have a global climate agenda course, and then we have energy policy course, where we're looking on developing and developed countries energy system. On that course, I have a task to analyze about energy policy in small island states like Fiji, Vanuatu. That's the first time when I fall in love, when I realized that energy system in small island has more challenges than in urban areas. And then I back to Indonesia. I work with the local communities, closely with the local communities, go to remote areas in Wakatobi, East Nusa Tenggara, and in Karimun Jawa. And that's where I more fall in love with renewable energy system in small island. So when I saw the vacancy in NZMATES, I was like, okay, let's join forces with this team. because I feel a bit, I feel responsible as Indonesian because I got privileged to study, like even more, I study abroad to learning about renewable energy. I feel that I want to help the local communities. Although most of the time it's give and take process, it's not always me that giving something to the local community, but when I'm on field work, I also learn from the local community how to live a sustainable lifestyle, how to live close to the nature without harming the environment, which is really interesting and impressive. So yeah, it's a fulfilling job.
Uh-huh. You're living in Java, where most of the things happen in Indonesia at the moment and in the past. And also
Mhm.
you've lived in Sweden, one of the exciting region in Europe where a lot of innovation, a lot of progress in sustainable energy happening. And now you're working in Ambon. So based on your perspective from energy point of view, what is the main difference between big cities like Java and maybe in Sweden and also in Ambon? What is the major difference?
Oh, it's such a big question. So, comparing Indonesia with Sweden, in Sweden, the electricity grid is connected with all the Nordic countries. So Sweden electricity grid connected with Norway, and then it's like a giant spider web of electricity. So they can integrate a lot of renewable energy into their system. Compared to Indonesia, we have a lot of dispersed island, like big and small. We have Java, Sumatra, Kalimantan, etc., etc. But when we look at the electricity grid, the connected system is on like Java, Bali. They don't have any interconnection between islands. So integrating renewable energy can be more complicated. We also depend on fossil fuel. I think everyone knows about that. We depend on coal, natural gas as well, and diesel. In small island, we depend on diesel generator. Also in small island, uh, like the number of population really is a large range. There was an island with 200 households, 1,000 people. There's also small island that can go as small as less than 100 households, only 60 households. It's like a really small demand to provide. So sometimes the economic feasibility is not met in small island. In Java, we saw a lot of industrial load from factories, while in small island, um, sometimes it doesn't have any industrial activities. They have entrepreneurship activities, but usually small until medium scale. If they have factories or industrial activities in Eastern Indonesia, usually the factories is big enough that they have their own power plant.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of difference on that, and also socio-economic speaking, people in small island usually has lower income than people in urban areas in Java.
Mhm.
So when we want to put renewable energy system that independent, usually the prices of electricity is higher than PLN prices than the national prices.
Yep.
That we have to be careful. We have to consider local communities' ability and willingness to pay. So there's like technical perspective planning and also like social engagement to local community as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're talking about how much it differs from rural areas, like most of Eastern Indonesia and with major cities. And, it is quite well known here in Indonesia that sustainability is also one of a challenge here. Like when you build a power plant or when you build a energy infrastructure, the sustainability of it, whether socio-economic or maybe technological, it's always there's a challenge that that can make it stop maybe 1 or 2 years after the construction or after it start operating. In your point of view, how is it going, especially with your area of working, since one of your responsibilities is also monitoring? And I want to also to ask about your point of view, how it relates with the entrepreneurial activities or small industrial activity in Eastern Indonesia.
Mhm. So I would like to ask the last question first. So from my experience and from study that I read and research that I done in my previous work, linking renewable energy with entrepreneur uh, activities is one of a key success of renewable energy system in rural areas, especially if it's owned by the local communities. Uh, because when we link the economic activities with renewable energy, like the impact that that local community gets is not abstract. Like, oh yeah, uh, we have this renewable energy that supports our economic activities. So if we want to produce and make money, we have to maintain this renewable energy. So that's perspective. In terms of sustainability, yes, I saw many renewable energy in small islands that failed before the end of its lifetime. But I also know some renewable energy system that sustain for some years, for 2, 3 years. Uh, like two of the example that I like is the renewable energy system in Panggang Island. It's near Karimun, Java, so it's in the north of Java. Uh, and also the communal biogas plant in Pelosok, Bantul, Yogyakarta. Actually, my former team and I in Universitas Gadjah Mada published a paper about technical and social assessment of biogas power plant in Pelosok, and we compare it with several biogas plants in Indonesia. It's published this year. So one of the key success of this both system is actually that the renewable energy system answer to local communities' demand for energy access. So in Panggang Island, the solar panel gives them electricity during the days, and then during the night they get electricity from diesel generator. While in Pelosok, the biogas help local communities to reduce their expense on liquefied petroleum gas. So the local community have sense of belonging because they get the benefit from this renewable energy. Um, and in Panggang Island, actually, it's really impressed me because when I visited the location in 2018, they only got 280 watt hour of electricity per day per household, which is smaller than the average household consumption in Indonesia. But within this limit, it makes local communities in Panggang Island aware that they have to use efficient electronic devices. So when they want to buy a new electronic devices, they will ask the seller, like, oh, is this devices voltage is small enough that I can use it during the day with my limitation electricity that I get from solar panel? So it's really impressed me because this local community learns by doing and they learn it by themselves. So it's really interesting that uh, renewable system in Panggang Island changed the conversation between local communities and the seller in that location. And even when they go to Jepara, the electronic devices seller know what they mean by that.
So it's interesting because they're going to have a very different perspective from us, that we used to live where the electricity from the grid is more than enough for us. So we won't asking when we want to buy a new device, we won't ask like, is it enough, or is it going to, the consumption will be more than my local electricity can produce. So it's very interesting point of view actually.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and actually I got this stories from a wife. So it's a woman that telling me the story. So renewable energy always in Indonesia mostly portrayed as a masculine technology, but in Panggang Island, I saw that women, especially households, they're really connected with solar panels that they use in daily life, and they know what kind of electricity that they should use during the day. So like this, so like the moms in Panggang Island is like giving schedule to their kids and their husband, like, oh, today I want to ironing all of the clothes, so you shouldn't watching TV, and then oh, I want to use the water pump, so you shouldn't watching TV that time. So it's really interesting, and it's breaking the gender issues of renewable energy.
Yeah, it's happy also for us that to know that the renewable energy can bring inclusivity, not only from gender perspective, but also from underrepresented community, especially from people from remote areas. So let me go to the discussion about the universal electricity access. With Indonesia at the moment, we are working toward universal electricity access. Some of it works, but some of it also have a lot of challenge that we need to solve. With your work, what do you think? What do you think is the current condition? Of course, beyond the data and statistics, the condition on the field, and also what can we do to help? As a young Indonesian.
So I think the target is good that we have a target. Although the first swing of that target has a lot of hurdles because we depend a lot on um, fossil fuel, and it's hard. It's complicated to integrate renewable energy into our grid system because our grid system is kind of like dispersed all over the places. Um, but if I have to take like one necessary factor to meet this target is to have a long-term planning that is holistic and consistent. So we have to consider uh, like technical factor, economic factor, of course, it's on the feasibility study, but also beyond that, so the social factor, operation and maintenance factor, or even the cultural factor if we want to give this renewable energy system to the local communities. Uh, and we have to ask question, what happened after the installation? How can the stakeholder at local level maintain the system? What happened if the inverter broke down, or what happened if we have to change the battery? Where can we get this spare part? Can we get it in Java, or we have to go, or we have to get it from Singapore or Germany, something like that. And this question about operation and maintenance goes on and on until the decommissioning phase. Like what happened with the solar panel after 20 years, or if the battery's life cycle ends, where should we bring this battery? Should we recycle it, or should we like send it back to the manufacturer, something like that? And I think it is important uh, because if we install a solar panel or like renewable energy system that should work for 20 years, but in fact it only works for a year or even less than that, I think it's a waste of investment and a waste of natural resources. So to meeting this target is to keeping in mind about sustainability. I believe that sustainability is not a sprint. It's not just a point in the future, but I believe it's more than it's more like a marathon that we have to make sure every step and every decision that we make during this implementation and planning, we take environment as our main and number one consideration. That's what I believe.
Okay, Dinta, thank you very much for joining us to have a discussion. It's really inspiring, and also I hope it can motivate other youth Indonesians to work to help toward providing electricity for everyone in a sustainable manner. Dinta, thank you very much once again, and good luck with your job. See you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. See you.